The Vermeer brand needs no real introduction. They are clearly a dominant force in the HDD industry. Vermeer as a brand has been around since the 1940s, but they had their first entry into the HDD market in 1991. Internally, it was called the Easy Bore machine. It eventually hit the market as the D7, D standing for drill and 7 for 7,000 pounds of pullback power. Vermeer has eventually expanded their product offering all the way up into the 1 million pound class drill, and today their offerings top out at the D550. And although the machine that we're talking about today is not nearly that size, the impact it's had on the market is huge. That is the Vermeer D23x30. Hi, I'm Owen, Marketing Manager of MTI Equipment. Thousands of horizontal directional drills have passed through the doors of our shop. And so we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of almost every horizontal directional drill on the market today.
So there's tons of knowledge stuck in brains behind desks
and next to toolboxes in the shop.
And so this video series is dedicated to unlocking that knowledge and sharing it with you, so you can make the most informed decision possible when shopping for your next directional drill. If that's something you're into, please like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what drill you want us to cover next.
The Vermeer D23x30 S3 really hits the sweet spot in Vermeer's lineup and also the HDD market for rigs you might consider for fiber work. It gives you a true 24,000 pounds of pullback and 3,000 foot-pounds of rotational torque, but it remains compact. So compared to other rigs you might consider for fiber work, like the very popular JT20 or the 2022, the D23x30 is a significant step up in power compared to those machines. But like those machines, the D23x30 still sits next to its mud system on a trailer, which is an ability you lose with rigs just the next step up in power like the Vermeer 2440. Maintenance is simple and easy too. The single-sided rack has bolt-on sections, which means when they wear out and it's time to replace them, you don't have to tear apart the whole machine. Quicker repairs mean more uptime. The rod loader system is straightforward and easy to train on. The rubber tracks give it great mobility and stability, and the 100-power Deutz turbo diesel engine delivers reliable, efficient power. Bottom line, the D23x30 gives big rig performance in a small, contractor-friendly footprint. This is the reason that the D23x30 has been so successful over the last decade. As of 2025, Vermeer has stopped producing the D23x30 in favor of the new D24, but that doesn't mean that the legacy of the D23x30 is over. The D23x30 is still a viable option for HD contractors today. With that in mind, we're going to grab one of our lead technicians, Tim Chos, and he's going to walk us through, if you're shopping for a used D23x30, 4 things that you should keep in mind. So now it's time for Tim's take. I think that's what I'm going to call this section of the videos now. So Tim is going to walk us through 4 things that you'll want to look for if you are shopping for a used D23x30. The things we're going to look at are a section in the frame that often we may need to fix. We're going to look at the mud pump. We're going to look at the updated thrust motor kit, and we are going to look at the rack. So Tim, would you take us through what is that section in the frame that sometimes we need to fix?
So it's the cradle underneath the motor in the front of the motor.
Okay.
That was weak. Vermeer did have a IK kit for it where they came out and welded another piece of steel to it. I think that IK kit is over with. So here at MTI, if we find them broken, or there's a couple different ways that they look like. Some of them are welded up in a different spot, so it is prone to break. So we usually weld a plate to it.
Gotcha. You want to show us exactly what that is?
So we're going to open the hood over here. So you want to, if you're going to go look at a drill, you're going to want to open the back door. You can set it right down the side. So it's this part of the frame right here. Okay. It actually breaks right here, just like that. Mm-hmm. Because you see how thin it is, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this one here, you see the weld's already broken on the frame. See the grooves?
Yep.
And they come apart on the other side too. So Vermeer, what they did is put another piece on this and beefed it up some.
Gotcha. So how exactly will we put a plate there, or?
That's what we do. We cut one just like their plate, We made a template out of the first one
You did?
that we ever did. So we just cut out a piece of steel,
Yeah.
welded to that, and then welded to the sides too, and custom it again.
Okay. All right, cool. So let's talk about that Pentair Mud Pump next.
Okay.
So what things do we often have to look for, or should customers be aware of when shopping for a 2330 with a mud pump?
So if you're out shopping for a 2330, you want to look at the back of the mud pump right here and make sure it wasn't frozen. If it's frozen, it cracks the case.
Gotcha.
Then you have to rebuild it. You have to do a new case, new crankshaft, new bearings, new rods. It's about a 10 grand rebuild.
Okay.
Takes you 3 or 4 days to do it, depending on what part availability is. If the mud pump's not broke, this mud pump needs to be maintained very regularly. You need to change the oil in it. I would recommend every 75 hours you change the oil in it. It has very little oil reservoir.
Okay.
So the oil gets polluted real quick with mud. So if your cups are leaking and don't allow the mud to go out from the head,
Yeah.
the mud goes in the seals and ends up in the crankcase.
Gotcha.
So you always want to keep this area underneath your mud pump clean.
Uh-huh.
Make sure we see them here. They have drill fluid underneath them, blocks the hole underneath. So all the water, all the mud builds up in here. It goes in the crank end.
Gotcha.
You want to regularly just check your pump, cups and liners, stuff like that. But that's the main thing about that pump.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. And then since we're right here, we can also talk about the updated thrust motors. So this
Yes.
machine has updated thrust motors, correct?
If you're looking at one of these, you look at the thrust motors on these, they had an issue with the earlier version of this thrust motor. If you're looking at them and the bolt head sticks up above the thrust motor, then it has the newer motors. They were rated more than the older one was. So if you have the older motors on it, you might want to see if you can figure out the history on it a little bit, see if they lost the thrust motor. If they did, because when you lose a thrust motor, it ends up going through the thrust pump on the drill. The little bearings that are inside of it end up in it. When Vermeer does the IK kit, if they get done at the factory, they usually do an oil sample to check and make sure the hydraulic oil is fine. If you looking to buy a drill, you can actually get somebody to do an oil sample on the hydraulics. We do that here at MTI. If we question anything that doesn't look right, or we will pull oil samples on it, send them out and get them done.
Okay. And so I guess the next thing we can move to is talking about looking at wear on the rack. So show us what we would look for on the rack.
Okay. On the higher hour, 2330, the little 1-inch swath on the rack here where the wear pad rides will be wore down. It won't be flat across this whole surface. It'll be wore down here. When it does that, the carriage runs into the vices in the front because the whole carriage sits down.
Gotcha.
So what we do here is it's almost nearly impossible to fix that on these without replacing the whole rack, the whole assembly. So what we usually do is shim the wear pads down a little bit so it picks the carriage up so it's still grounded. It doesn't hurt anything. The deeper it gets, it actually will ride the top of the tooth rack and hit the vices.
Gotcha.
So you need to shim up the wear pads a little bit.
Okay.
Pick your carriage back up to where it was from the factory. The racks were warranted from Vermeer to the original owner. They would come out and replace them for you. But if you're not the original owner, you won't get that. Here at MTI, if they are worn, depending on the machine and the type it is, whether it's a gold or platinum, a lot of times we'll change the rack out and the pinions.
Yeah, okay. And so that's a nice thing to know. This is a changeable rack as opposed to like the JT20 that we were talking about
Right.
last
This is
time.
bolt down.
This is a
It's bolt down rack.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not that, it's compared to different things on the drill, it's not that expensive.
Okay. All right.
So,
Cool. So
but it makes the drill actually function better. It'll be quieter. It won't be making rack noise and different things like that.
yeah, overall. So if you were buying a 20,000 pound drill, which one would you choose?
So it all depends on your dealer support.
Okay. That's a
So
good answer.
at MTI, we work on both drills.
Yeah.
We work on Ditch Witch, we work on Vermeers. So the thing is, it's not always the drill. Both drills, when they're working, are good.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's your dealer support.
Yep.
Wherever you may be in the country, if you don't have a good Vermeer dealer for support, Vermeer might not suit you.
Right.
So if you have a Ditch Witch dealer and they're good, Ditch Witch might suit you. But for the most part, both the drills do the same function as long as they're working.
Yeah.
The 2330 is a little more, got more power than the JT20 does.
Yep.
Because it has a 3.6 Ditch in it versus the 2.9.
Right.
So it does more work. Its hydraulics are a little more robust, but it still depends on your dealer network of who you have to support you.
Yeah, well,
parts
that was a very neutral answer. I appreciate that. I threw him that at the last minute. He didn't know I was going to ask him that, so that was a good answer.
This is
Tim, thank you very much. We really appreciate all of your time and you sharing that with us. We also had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Vermeer about the legacy of the 2330 and how that leads into their new D24. If you're interested in that video, see it somewhere here.